And now with questions for the council candidates, and we have several. This question was written and directed to Mr. McDonough, but all the candidates can answer. There was a front page article about county employees not being able to hold partisan posts. Fairview Park is nonpartisan, but what and how would this affect your position as a councilman, or how would it affect anyone's position as a councilman?
Thank you. I think that when one decides to serve the public and have a job in local government, that it really is a calling. And I felt in the 10 years that I've done that, it makes me certainly not take for granted my community. As a prosecutor and in fighting crime, safety is important to me, and it's even more important for me in Fairview Park. I am so pleased that Fairview Park is nonpartisan, in that whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it's really about getting the job done for everyone and what's best for the common good. So I'm glad that Fairview Park is nonpartisan. I think it's a great thing for public servants to be involved in their community, to be active. It's a government for the people, by the people, and I would certainly enjoy that privilege here in Fairview Park.
Thank you. Mr. Studeny?
I have no response. I'm in the private sector, so thank you.
I would like to comment on that as well, and I know Fairview Park is nonpartisan. The law states that if you are employed by the county or municipal government, you cannot work in a partisan office or partisan election. And as Mr. McDonough said, you know, it's a calling, and the law backs it up. My concern with that is I think that the law needs to be taken a look at, because people like Mr. McDonough, if this had been a partisan election, would not be able to serve. And I know that law impacts a lot of people who are employed by the county municipality and can't serve in partisan positions. And I'm thinking that really interferes with their ability to serve. Thank you.
Mr. Hinkel, do you have a response?
No, not really. I just, I think it's a strength of Fairview that it's a nonpartisan city. Like you said, I mean, we could be losing some qualified people throughout the county. And I think that Fairview being a nonpartisan city, it has a good positive effect. I mean, obviously everybody has their party loyalties, but you know, when you're in a nonpartisan city, it's clear that you need to check that at the door. You know, inside these four walls anyway, just worry about Fairview Park. And then when you go outside, sure, your feelings will kick in. But yeah, I kind of agree that perhaps a number of folks are going to be forced to resign from positions that they value very much.
Thank you. Mr. Matia, do you have any comment?
No.
I feel like Carl Monday. Mr. Kilbane?
Yeah, I agree with Ms. McDonough and Councilwoman Cleary that, I mean, Fairview Park being a nonpartisan town, and me being a county employee myself, who is in a position that has, where I have absolutely no, chance to demonstrate any political bias whatsoever. I'm very glad this is a nonpartisan city. But on the other side of this law does need to be looked at. There's a lot of hard-working, honest people that work in government and that are going to be completely knocked out of the political process for political reasons, really. This law came from Columbus in 1998 and basically aimed right at this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wojnar?
I don't have any comments.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
No comments.
Okay. Mr. Rehor?
No comments.
Thank you. That was short.
Ma'am?
Mr. Minek, I'm sorry, I missed you.
I served many years with Councilman Westfall, who was associated with Mr. Russo's office at the county. He has since retired. There was no conflict. All issues were resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and sorry I missed you. So to make up for that, we're going to begin with you for the next question, Mr. Minek. What do you see as the single biggest problem or issue facing Fairview Park in the next couple of years?
Revenue, incoming revenue. And I hope we have some developers come to this fine city And I like to say right now, we have a developer that will be across the street. We will be realizing $15 million, which will go on our tax duplicate, courtesy of our future tenant across the street.
Thank you. Mr. Studeny?
I agree with Mr. Minek. Revenue is going to be one of the biggest problems. That's why one of my top goals is to do everything possible to actively market the assets of our city. The reason that we live here, to promote our city, to promote those assets, and to get new business in this community. Only with that new business will additional revenue come to alleviate some of the issues that we're going to be dealing with. And obviously, as Council President Kilbane said, the state is not going to do that for us. So I think our city needs to actively promote and obtain new business for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDonough?
It's certainly finances. Before I became a prosecutor, I worked for a law firm that did commercial and real estate development. And some developers did not care for Fairview Park because in order to get development at that time, you needed zoning changes. And zoning changes had to be made by the ward and then by a supermajority in the city. So some developers went elsewhere. We are landlocked. I would like to see the idea for developers to come to make it as easy as possible for high-paying jobs, for future development, so that we can do more with less. It's an exciting time. I look forward to the future development that we have. We should make it as easy as possible for good businesses to come in with their employees and payrolls to support the city.
Thank you. Mr. Hinkel?
I would agree. It's also revenue. Everything flows from there. On the revenue side, we've had our Jim Kennedy is our Director for Economic Development. We had 13 businesses come into the city last year. We've had 8 come into the city this year, and that's not counting the credit union that's going up on 227. It's not counting Earth Fair that's coming into Westgate. It's not counting the nursing home that's going to open across the street. Right now, we're slated for roughly $18 million in economic development for next year, and that's going to be the cure. It lightens the load on all of you, and that's going to be the main issue. That's economic development is going to cure a lot of ills, and we've made progress on it, and we need to just keep going down that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matia?
Thank you. Finances are very important. They are in Lisa and the mayor's hand, Lisa Rocco, and I'd like to applaud her for the good job that the administration's doing with what they have to work with. I, however, from Ward 5, think sewers are, in the next couple of years, are the biggest issue. Sewers are going to burden the city. How they're going to address them, they're trying to, it's an uphill battle. NASA on Brook Park Road, that's in a state of flux. Hopefully, if things work out, it'll be a plus for the city. 13% of the real estate tax bill that people pay come to the city of Fairview Park out of the 100% that they pay. 64% goes to the school system. The school system is doing a great job. With 13% that the city is getting from the real estate taxes, they're doing as darn good as they can. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cleary?
Thank you. To add to what Mr. McDonough said is that making Fairview Park friendly to businesses, we have a new business that's going to be opening up in Fairview, a new company that's going to be building in Fairview, and they said that they went to another suburb and didn't find the atmosphere and the environment quite as friendly for economic development as they found in Fairview Park. I was immensely, we couldn't get that kind of publicity to have a business person come in here and say, we want to come to Fairview Park and develop in Fairview because you've got it right. So I think we're on the right track, and I'm very encouraged by that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kilbane?
I was last time. Revenue, like everyone else has said. I mean, the Councilman Matia said, the sewers, which, I mean, repairing our sewer system and infrastructure in general in this country, I mean, depends on revenue. And unfortunately, right now in this country, you have this kind of anti-government sentiment floating around out there. And I mean, Yeah, but we just got to concentrate on economic development and infrastructure. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Wojnar?
I'm going to reiterate what everybody else said. The biggest problem we're going to face is the finances for the city, and the way to address that is redevelopment of land and office space. It was brought up earlier, the NASA facility that needs to get new tenants in. That's $400,000 worth of income tax revenue to the city. The redevelopment of the Garnet property, which is in place right now, is going to give us expected $1 million from the sale of the land, and also $100,000 in annual income taxes. So with money coming in from redeveloped land, it will alleviate the tax situation, hopefully. And also, as Mr. Matia said, the sewer issue can be addressed with more funds coming into the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Thank you. Just to reiterate again, everyone's talked about revenues, maybe to give a little more clarity to that. Fairview Park gets about $600,000 annually through the state tax. That's going to drop by $300,000 in 2012 and by $400,000 in 2013. The state estate tax, we get about $400,000. We're good for that for the next budget year. After that, in 2013, that tax is eliminated. NASA, as many of you know, pardon me, there's about $400,000 that's lost due to some changes over there. That's impacted the city now. The sewers, obviously, that's something that's everyone's concern. There is a master plan in place, and it's my understanding that the city has applied for about $1 million in grants. To kind of pick up on what I was ending my opening comments to say, collaboration is important. When you look at what we've done as a city government and what we've achieved working together with our public, private schools, police, fire services, local businesses, municipalities. I want to stay on time here. There are cost savings and efficiencies to be gained in working together at many levels. Leveraging these opportunities will continue to define and strengthen our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Rehor?
Without question, the biggest issue that's going to face our city is going to be finances. It's going to be the revenues. And underneath that, everything else is tied into it. Of course, they're working on trying to fix the sewers, and that's always an ongoing problem. It's been going on for many years. But you can't really do that without the proper financing. Part of my practice involves the representation of a lease and loan operation in 24 states, including Ohio. And I can tell you, from my experience, that this is a recession that we have never seen. I'm almost 50 years old, and I remember the one back in 1974 with the price freeze and Richard Nixon and all that crazy stuff. But this is a deep, deep economic problem, and it's not going to go away. It's going to take a couple years. Now, there are different things to do for municipality, and layoffs have not happened, thank God, but there are ways to reduce expenses. And you look into regionalization. I know that there's good relationships with neighboring cities. You look at the school districts. You could reduce your hospitalization costs dramatically if you ended up going into an agreement with the neighboring suburbs and school districts, increase the number of employees underneath the risk plan, and create a savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Rehor. Mr. Hinkel, collaboration was mentioned, and now we've heard mention about regionalism and working with other municipalities and entities. Can you give an example of when or if that has occurred in Fairview Park and how that worked?
Well, the first example that comes to mind would be the West Shore study for the possible merging of the fire departments. This would cover, North Olmsted, Rocky River, Bay Village, Fairview Park, and possibly Lakewood. The reason that this is something we're talking about is if you pull back from a city perspective, you can have fire stations that are a mile apart from each other, but they're in two completely different cities. And at the time, if you're a city, you're only thinking about yourself and your own needs. But regionally, you see where you can leverage calls. We have that here. A call goes out, a Rocky River unit might be the first one to get there, just depending on where the firehouses are. That is something that's been ongoing for over a year. That is something that our administration has discussions they've taken part in, and that's something I think we'll see more of in the future.
Thank you. And Mr. Matia?
First thing before the card goes up. Mr. Jones, thank you. Mr. Jones, and I don't mean to put Dan on the spot, but he said the city's applied for $1 million in grants. To the best of my knowledge, we've applied for $1 million in no interest loan. So grants is a misnomer. All those will have to be paid back. As far as regionalism goes, John is completely right. The regional fire thing. The next thing that comes to my mind is when we were in a bind a couple months ago, Mr. Kennedy contracted or talked with North Olmsted. They had a piece of equipment that we didn't have, and they bartered. And it was a good start to try and get some stuff working collaborative. There's so many things that these little fiefdoms of different cities we could work together to get things done, and that would be my next 4 years in office, is to try and make stuff like that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cleary?
Thank you. Really, that's going to be the way of the future, I think, with government. We're going to be seeing that, I think, with municipalities. I think we'll be seeing that with school boards. Further evidence of the success of mutual collaboration when you look at the West Shore Central Dispatch Center. Instead of each municipality having its own central dispatch for police and fire, we have one center that will dispatch services, police and fire to Fairview. There's 6 or 7 cities in the West Shore District. I think it's another good example. And to add on to what Mr. Hinkel said, when you look at, for example, with mutual aid or the possibility of creating a West Shore Fire District, one of the things you do is that you don't have to have each city or each suburb have the exact same piece of equipment. One city may be able to have a ladder engine, and another municipality might have something else. And the chief, again, is available to talk about that after the meeting as well. But we're going to really need to rely on collaboration to really deal with the economic situation. And really, the downturn in the economy has forced our hand and really forced us to work more collaboratively and think more creatively. So I think we're going to see more of that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kilbane?
Yes. With the cuts to the local government funding by the state, it really leaves us with no other alternative to collaborate with other communities. Like John said, the fire study has been ongoing, and some great ideas have come out of that, and we'll see what's implemented. But over the past, just my own little personal story of collaboration within the district, I've been involved in a council presidents group with all the council presidents in the West Shore. We've met a few times over the past year. We've had a lot of really good discussions on how our communities can collaborate. We've brought it back to our respective councils and administrations. Just one example, Westlake has had an ongoing study about leaving Cleveland water, and so we've talked with them about that. We had their engineer and we had a contractor who's been conducting the test, the viability test in Westlake, come here and discuss that with our council and our administration. So, I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities out there for us to collaborate with other communities and counties. So. It's definitely what we're going to be. We're going to have to. We're going to absolutely have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Wojnar?
Just reiterate what everyone else said about the collaborating with the other West Shore communities. We've had discussions over the regional fire districts, and as Council President said, they've had discussions with Westlake, with trying to get, possibly looking at water from Avon, seeing if they can cut costs that way. I think that there's a natural aversion for cities to do that, because as Matia stated earlier, each city is a little fiefdom, and that we need to break down those barriers to cut the costs and serve the public. So that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Not sure how much I can add to this. You know, regionalization is not a dirty word. I think, you know, when you look at what's worked for, you know, with the EMS, the West Shore EMS, which, by the way, was the brainchild or started, Pete, you'll probably make sure that I stay on the straight and narrow on this, so well, let me back up. I believe that that committee was originally chaired by Eileen Patton and started here in Fairview Park. That's what we need to be proud of, is the fact that this has been, when you look at Gemini Center, the collaboration there between, you know, schools and the city, we need to leverage that kind of positive direction. You know, the EMS central dispatches work, higher efficiency, less equipment, improved training. We need to continue to look for other areas where we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rehor?
I think any definition of real regionalization has to encompass the notion that political subdivisions, whether it's a school district or a city, they're working together to give the taxpayer the biggest bang for their buck, to help extend the tax funds as far as possible. And it can't be any more important than in the time that we're in now. Some things are not that glamorous when you're trying to save money. And the fire department and the other matters, they're pretty sexy issues in terms of what goes on. But other things are more nuts and bolts. And they're the things that really can help cities come over the top. And I'll go back to the healthcare issue. Healthcare in this country is getting more and more expensive with every year. Regulations come and go, they change. And the way to drive down costs for a municipality or a school district is to reduce that premium dollar. The way to do that is to get as many people in the pool as possible. If you took the 5 northwestern cities, took the 5 northwestern school districts in our county, merge them, you would create a tremendous pool and a risk that could be managed. And it would result in savings for all of them, for the 10 entities, the 5 school districts and the 5 cities. All you would have to do is set up a mechanism to do that. And it would benefit all of us.
Thank you. Presently, we have the Council of Governments. Fairview Park is a member of the 6-city coalition. And they meet periodically to discuss issues facing the 6 cities. And we're not alone in this problem. Back when I was on a police force, we had mutual aid. That continues to today. And with the possibility of incorporating the divisions of fire. There's so many avenues we can go down here. It's just a matter of talking to the right people at the right time. I personally like to see more collaboration between the cities, because we can unite and make everything a little cheaper and be less pressure on our people, our residents who have to pay the taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Studeny?
I really don't have much additional to add. I understand how cities in our in Northeast Ohio don't want to lose their identity, but I think Ms. Cleary hit it right on the head that the economy has forced our hands, and I think regionalism is very important. But one other thing I think the city can do is regionalize, not just externally, but internally, and I think they've done a very good job in doing that with the Gemini project, and the city has collaborated very well with the public schools, and I think that relationship needs to be fostered, it needs to continue, and that will eventually foster external regionalization as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonough.
I think we have to be open to any regionalism in any area, and whether that's with fire, with the fire department, whether it's with city services such as the police department. Parma and Parma Heights, they had an interesting collaboration between their police departments. They had a lot of turnover, and they decided to almost barter a little bit when it came to providing investigative services. just like Mr. Kennedy has done in terms of with North Olmsted and the sewer, and being able to perhaps share some of the equipment that with North Olmsted and us to improve the infrastructure. It would certainly be a good thing. And if we can collaborate with St. Edward High School to play their football games at Fairview High School, I think that'd be a great collaboration. I took my son there. We had a great time. We enjoyed the atmosphere, so I would certainly be open to that.
Rebuttal. No, I'd rather have Ignatius.
No objection there.
And I just had one question just directed specifically at a candidate. The questioner wanted to ask Mr. Minek about an attempt to return the Fairview Park children attending Rocky River schools back to Fairview Park, and just wanted a little more information on that issue.
Thank you. 1928, Fairview Park School Board designated by resolution the land north of Addington Boulevard, west 210 to the west city limits. The children living in that area may attend Rocky River schools. Since 1928, no one attempted to bring those kids back to Fairview Park. I attempted it in 1986. We went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and by 5-2 split vote, state Supreme Court ruled that the counter petitions that the Rocky River School Board obtained could be deducted from our required number of individuals who signed. Subsequently, we did not have the 75% of residents who voted in the last general election to go further with the request to bring back our children. Today, the Rocky River School Board is a recipient of $1,839,402 that could be in Fairview Park. I'm still researching this issue, and I hope someday I can bring back our kids to Fairview Park.
Thank you. Any additional comments before we move on to our last question?
If I may, that was the thing about Gemini. When the schools transfer the land to the city, and we entered into the joint use center, because Gemini was funded by a 0.5% income tax, which included the taxing jurisdiction of the city of Fairview Park, that included the income tax revenue for the area of Fairview Park that encompassed Westgate. And because of the relationship between the city and the schools, there's a joint use agreement. The schools get access to that center. The field is taken care of through that 0.5% income tax. The track is. So really, for the first time in 80 years, we have Westgate helping out with the operations of the school. And that's more of a practical solution. The other solution, it's a valid attempt, but realistically, it's not going to happen for us.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on to our last question? Yes, sir.
Mr. Kilbane brought up the proposal, or the Westlake came over and showed us how they're going to get out of the Cleveland water. And as a councilman in Fairview Park, I will do everything in my power to stay with Cleveland water. I will not choose to go to Avon's water. Thank you.
Okay, last question, if that's okay. We have time for just one more question before you can make your closing statements. And we will begin with Ms. Cleary. Do you think a city of this size needs a full-time mayor, or would that be a good place to reduce expenses and help offset any revenue losses?
Oh, you can tell the answer by the laughter in the audience. We need 2 full-time mayors. It's beyond a full-time job. And if anyone has looked at, it's a matter of public record, what the mayor looks, or what the mayor makes, I don't know who would line up for that job in the first place. When you look at the executive or the CEO of a company or organization with a $23 million budget and the number of employees the city of Fairview has, I'm not in the private sector, and I've never been, so I can't imagine what the salary is, but I can bet it's nothing. I mean, I'm sure that it's probably 3 or 4 times what the mayor makes. So in all seriousness, the answer is we need a full-time mayor. It's a full-time job, and you look at a $23 million budget, you're not gonna save a lot of money if the mayor decides to go part-time. She's really time and a half, 2 times, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cleary. Mr. Kilbane?
It's a 24-hour, round-the-clock, thankless job. I mean, yeah, we need a full-time mayor.
You just described my job. Mr. Wojnar?
I think we do need a full-time mayor. I can't speak from experience as I'm not a city council member, but based on what I've seen over the last year, coming to council meetings and all the issues that the city faces, I do believe we need a full-time mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
We definitely need a full-time mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rehor?
In our town, with the amount of work that's involved and how much the mayor acts as a CEO of the city's finances and work, you need one. You really do.
Thank you. And Mr. Minek?
I worked for or served under 7 different mayors. Believe me, and the present mayor has probably done the most during her term. We do need a full-time mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Studeny.
I don't have anything to add. I think we need a full-time mayor.
McDonough?
I would agree.
Mr. Hinkel?
I am choosing to interpret that question as commentary on how smoothly the city must be running.
Thank you. And Mr. Matia?
Yes, we need a full-time mayor.
Great. Now, speaking of brevity, you have 1 minute to make a closing statement. And if we could begin with Mr. Wojnar, please.
I believe that my experience as Secretary-Treasurer overseeing budgets and contracts and representing my constituents has prepared me to do the same as the next City Councilman for Ward 3. In addition to my job experience, I have shown the commitment to understanding the issues and council procedures by attending almost every council and committee meeting since last December. In conclusion, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and this audience for giving me this opportunity to present my views and goals as a candidate for council. I thank the voters and ask for their continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. When I moved to Cleveland 20-some years ago, I heard about the emerald necklace. Personally, I think one of the jewels along the necklace is Fairview Park. When you look at Ward 3, there's a couple jewels in there. Bain Park, our access, or our neighboring Metro Park. There's a lot that we have to be proud of. It's also the largest ward in the city. It's where the Fairview Park Shopping Center is, City Hall, the high school, Gemini Center. There's a lot of things that we need to take care of, and I'd like to be the next ward representative on the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rehor.
If there's anything I've learned from the time of Gemini to my time on the school board, it is this simple truth. We live in a great town, full of down-to-earth people from all walks of life. Like I said, I never meant to get involved, but my wife Tricia and I, with our 6 children, we fell in love with this town. Because of that, and because of my children, I got involved. I believed I could help. I didn't get involved because I wanted position or status. For me, it's never been about that. I have come to know the people of this city and Ward 2 through my time on the board and from asking people to vote for Gemini in the winter of 2005, which was a trick. These people, they care deeply about our community. They care deeply about their families. They see the advances that have been made, and they see the great potential that we have, a potential that is off the charts. They know it, they feel it, and they say it. In terms of reaching our potential, we must rely on ourselves. Washington and Columbus will not do it for us.
Thank you. Mr. Minek?
Thank you. My goals are the best I can do with what I have. Flooding, of course, it's a major issue in this city. I was a victim. We had 40 inches of water in our basement and garage. So I know what it is. Vacant storefronts, we have to fill them. Only way we're going to do that is working with our development director, Chamber of Commerce, and Master Plan Steering Committee. Property maintenance. Your property is your biggest investment. And I'm a bug on making sure everybody's property is neat. As one newspaper stated, Bill Minek knows how to get things done without digging up old ways of doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Studeny?
Again, I'd like everybody to thank everybody for coming this evening. It was a very nice evening and very important evening. Over 20 years ago, my parents came to Fairview Park from Cleveland based upon many things. I went to Garnett School starting in 2nd grade, went up through the high school, actually went to the Coffinberry for daycare as well. And now my wife and I have the privilege to start our family and bring our own boys up in this city. And I want them to have the same opportunities that I had when I started in 2nd grade at Fairview Park. And I think the only way we can do that in this type of economy is through economic development within our city and actively marketing what our city has to offer to other companies out there. I think by actively marketing our city and its assets, there's no way a company can't come in here and say, why shouldn't we do business in Fairview Park? So as your council person or proposed council person, I pledge to do anything in my power to actively market our city so that we can increase economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough.
I met my wife, who's a Fairview Park resident. Her parents grew up here, her grandparents grew up here. When we got married, we could choose anywhere to live. And I said, well, where do you want to live? And she said, well, I want to live in Fairview Park. So I'm proud to say that love brought me to Fairview Park. It's a great city. I fell in love with the neighborhood, the people, the services. We're here to stay. I've got a lot of work to do on my house, so I know we'll be here for a long time with improvements. I think it's an exciting time for development. It's great to be a part of it. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for being here and for all of you for taking an active role in the future of our city. I believe in it, and I believe that our best days are in the future, and will be there for us and our children, our seniors, and everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkel.
At first, I wanted to thank the league for hosting tonight. There's a lot of details that go into planning an event like this. And I also wanted to thank everybody for coming out. To see the council chambers this packed was always a really nice thing. Basically, I just want to say that after 2.5 years on this job, it's still a humbling thing to know that I'm representing my own neighbors, and I'm one of 7 people that has a direct vote on things that happen in the city. I'm very proud to be on city council, and thank you all for your support over the years.
Thank you, Mr. Matia.
Thank you. The field of qualified candidates for the contested races is very impressive. Thank you, League, for this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Matia. Ms. Cleary?
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum this evening, and I also want to thank all the members of the audience for coming out tonight. Forums such as this event allow us to become more informed voters. Fairview Park must continue its effort to reduce expenses and increase revenue. As the city continues to focus on economic development, we must continue to look beyond our city borders for opportunities to work in collaboration with our neighboring communities, to share resources, enable services to be delivered in the most effective, most efficient, and most cost-effective manner. The recent cuts made by the state local government fund, and I will spare the details of that because I think my colleagues spoke very eloquently about the cuts and the impact, but they've resulted in a significant loss of revenue for the city. And I'm hoping that we can count on the residents' continued support for the renewal of the fire levy. You've heard from my colleagues about the hit that we took, and it's just very important. It's been my distinct pleasure and honor to serve on council.
Thank you, Ms. Cleary. And Mr. Kilbane?
Again, it's been my honor and pleasure to serve the residents of Fairview Park for the past 2 terms now. My best to all of you. Whoever's elected, I look forward to serving with you also. And thanks to the league, and thanks to all of you for coming out tonight.
And thank you all very much. I didn't miss anybody, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.